right, today we're talking about something that I don't think gets enough attention in the fitness space, and that is addiction. Now, when we say addiction, I feel like your mind typically jumps to alcohol, drugs, gambling, all that stuff, but that's not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about the sneaky things that can become addictive even when they're considered healthy or when they're supposed to be good things, even like fitness, nutrition, work, performance.
That's definitely the first thing that comes to my mind. Like when I hear addiction, I think alcohol, I think drugs, I think gambling, I think nothing but negative things like that. Everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, you shouldn't be doing that." But I love a title, and I don't know if it's a working title. I don't know if we'll use it or not, but we put it in there: fit, focused, and falling apart. I just thought that was hilarious because it's true. A lot. Sometimes the most seemingly put together people, whether it's in the gym or in business or wherever it may be, seem like they have it all together, and inside they're just falling apart because yes, the things they're doing and that they're working hard towards are things that are good in life, but it's become an addiction, an obsession, and it's become so much to the part where these healthy things are not healthy anymore. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're definitely not going to tell you guys that you shouldn't be doing this. We're just going to talk about things that seem really healthy at first, but are can be a negative thing, right? So things like tracking macros, or going to the gym consistently, or chasing PRs, or just working really hard at whatever you love, whether it be a work or hobby or something like that. All the things that we typically would celebrate and encourage can slowly start to shift into something else like an obsession. So it's kind of like that fine line between that discipline and things that are really good and, oh my gosh, it's kind of becoming like an obsession. So um, yeah, and if we're not careful, because I will talk about this as well, it's happened to us as well. Even the good things in life can just end up becoming an idol in our world.
Yeah, this one hits home for me for sure. I feel like people who have been following along or listening for a while, I've been open about my past with alcohol and using that as a coping mechanism. And even just with food and using those things as stuff to numb myself when I didn't want to face what I was feeling. But even when I quit drinking, I didn't magically stop having addictive tendencies. I just shifted them and I got addicted to tracking every macro, to training my life depended on it, to chasing a physique that was never enough, or to recently getting addicted to work and the grind and the hustle and all of that. And I think on the outside it looks like I was just disciplined, but inside, I was a prisoner to it. And I still struggle with this to this day. I always joke around like I have to discipline myself to be less disciplined. No joke. That is how I operate because of all these tendencies and just the stuff that I've gone through.
Yeah, I love the way you said it. You have to say that again.
I got to discipline myself to be less disciplined.
Discipline yourself to be less disciplined. I think that's great because I struggle with that sometimes too. And I don't know, maybe we're in the minority here, we're outliers, but I think more people go through this than you might think. And it's just, you're right. It like you said about the alcohol and going into taking that obsession and turning it into an obsession for the gym. What seems at first, yeah, if someone told me that they're addicted to alcohol and they said, I need an outlet that's much healthier for me, we would 100% say you need to start going to the gym. Make that the place you want to be, make that your obsession, and we might even like word it that way. But it can become super unhealthy if that we're just replacing one idol for another idol.
Yeah, and before we dive into this, I wanted to see what's going on in your world. Give us the weekly update.
Weekly update. Well, summer is officially over for
Tragic.
me. Tragic and sad. It was my routine, my schedule changes once the school year starts, and I'm a big routine guy, but I'm also pretty good at shifting routines if I need to. I just kind of establish a new routine. Today was my last, like, I get to work out in the morning with freedom and space and time, and so a lot of hugs and handshakes from my morning crew that knew that I wouldn't be in there for a while until next summer. So that's kind of like, it's kind of like a bittersweet type of thing because it's kind of sad because I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna miss you guys, but it's also kind of cool that I have that place and I have that group of people that know me and care about me and look forward to it. And I, of course, look forward to seeing them. And it's just that it's the regularity and the same people and everything like that. So, but I thought it was pretty interesting. a lot of the teachers that I talked to coming back there, a lot of the conversations like, oh, how was your summer? I'm kind of glad to be back because my routine was thrown off. So most people or the opposite, like they take their summer and everything's just kind of like scattered. They don't really wake up at the same time. They don't really have the same things going on. And so I can't really relate to that as much. But I did think it was really interesting that so many people were glad for or happy for school to start because they needed that routine. They needed that structure. And then just even though, yes, all of a sudden their summer of freedom is gone and they have to do a bunch of work and everything like that, it was almost like a relief to them because now they know what to expect every day and know how to go through that routine. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my clients have been talking about this too. And they're like, oh, I can't wait till the kids get back to school, even just so I can have more normalcy and things will be less crazy in my life and my routine.
Yeah. I definitely hear that from the parents all the time. But I love my kids, but you know what? I also love when they're back in school, and their routines change as well. So that's pretty interesting. One thing that I thought about too is I decided to come up with a new breakfast rotation.
Do tell.
Here's me trying to break out of my discipline, that I just to break my discipline type of thing.
Yeah.
So I've talked about this how my shake has been the go-to for like 10,000 times and type of thing. And so this summer I've started playing around with a little more things, and that was kind of a challenge in its own to kind of break free from I have to have my shake every morning, and so I've purposely tried to do different things. So I've decided to do a different breakfast rotation. I'm definitely going to keep my shake,
Okay.
right?
I was gonna
And
say,
so
I could not imagine that losing.
I gotta have my shake. But I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna do like a shake on a Monday, maybe like a creamy on a Tuesday. I'm gonna do like my protein coffee on like a Wednesday, and then on Thursday I might have like a breakfast, like a real breakfast of like
Okay.
eggs and pancakes or something like that. Eat a protein pancake, something like that. And then Friday might be like a wild card. I might mix those days up. I haven't decided like exactly what I want to do, but yeah. And then so I think it'd be fun. Something to mix it up a little bit, change the pace, something to look forward to. But without like getting rid of any of those because I liked all those and I really started getting into them. So I don't know. It'll be fun to try that out.
Yeah, it is fun, especially when you're like so consistent with what you do every single day. I know for me, like I eat the same breakfast every single day, so sometimes it's cool to just switch it up and try something a little bit different. And like, hey, who knows? You might find something better that you like more than the shake. Who knows?
I don't know. We're going a little crazy here. But
I'm skeptical too, but hey.
now my lunch, dial it in. I got my tuna, cottage cheese, avocado mix, bowl of fruit. Boom.
Love it.
That'll be 90% of my days right there.
Yeah, I switched up mine a little bit too. I was doing the burger bowls for so long, and so I switched mine up a little bit just to burrito bowl, going back to that classic. But it is fun here and there. Try something different.
Bowls a little bit. Yeah, there you go. I like how like we're not like that far off. Like we're making this like huge deal, and they're like we're total shift. They're like basically you just took a shake and just modified it a little bit. It's still a shake every day, dude.
I know for me, it's like instead of potatoes, it's the base is more rice.
It's still a bowl. You haven't changed much.
Getting crazy over here. Everyone watch out.
We're wild. Yeah, we're out of control.
Speaking of out of control, though, I really do feel like my new routine is out of control
Okay, share with us what's
for
going
my
on.
standards. Well, this is the first week of no 9 to 5 job. So I'm with what 3 days into it. So there's definitely going to be a lot of trial and error and a lot of figuring out what the optimal routine is. So right now I feel like it's very chaotic and I'm trying to go with the flow a little bit more and not have a set structure on like, hey, I go to the gym at this exact time, I do my work at this time, I go to do my ice bath at this time. So I've just been kind of like going based on how I feel. It's like, oh, like today I really want to get up and just like grind and bust out a bunch of work, and then I want to go to the gym. Or it's like some days I want to get up, go to the gym, knock that out, and then work. So it's just like it's weird not having structure and just allowing myself to do kind of what I feel in the moment. I don't know how I feel about it. It's kind of uncomfortable, not gonna lie.
Well, I was going to ask you if it like honestly, like I'm starting to get a little anxiety thinking about just like, hey, I'm going to work out, and whenever I feel like it today, And that might go into kind of our obsession topic today. But yeah, like I set up these routines, and whether it's I'm working out in the morning or in the evening or whatever, it's a set time. It's like I know that the day before I know exactly when I'm working out the next day, and for it to just be like I don't know, maybe I'll work out at 1 o'clock, maybe 5. Like to me, that almost causes a little bit of anxiety of like I don't know, I need to have that set time.
Yeah, it definitely is for me too. And so I think it's probably, I feel like this is my trial week of just like experimenting with that a little bit. And I have a feeling I'm going to like kind of veer back into the more structured, but it's just like it's finding that right balance and what works. I think what's also made it hard is one of the big things I'm prioritizing is more of the experiences and community and doing stuff with friends. And so that kind of is more sporadic and random, which then forces the rest of my routine to like have to adjust accordingly. So it's like I can't necessarily structure all the other things I want because it's like kind of structured around those events.
Yeah,
So
I got
that makes it a little bit challenging too. And then, for example, like I've been playing a lot of volleyball naturally. That's not new, but
you.
it's like some of the days I'm like out until 9 and then it throws off my whole routine and then it throws off my whole morning. So it's just like, then I'm like trying to adjust on the fly the next day. So that's been a little bit challenging. I'm sure it'll just take a few weeks for me to like find more structure with that and get into a good flow with everything and balancing all that. But right now it's felt really chaotic.
Well, it's a lot easier for me to say this because it's you doing this and not me, but I really think this is actually going to be really beneficial to you and for you.
I know it is. It for sure is. And for a lot of different reasons too. Not even just like for me, like being able to pour more into the community and myself and that type of stuff, but even just like the growth that's going to come from adjusting my routine like this and just leaning into, because like I said, it's uncomfortable, but anything that's going to be worthwhile and help you grow is going to be uncomfortable. So I think it's good to lean into that and just like force myself into it a little bit. Um, and I will say, even just, especially the first 2 days, today was a little more stressful and just busy, and I feel like behind on everything just kind of for the reasons I had mentioned. But first couple of days, like I was just feeling so aligned, and I just feel like I've been operating on just like a whole other energy and a whole other wavelength. And just because of that, I'm attracting all of the right people and the right opportunities. And so it's been really cool to see almost that initially, like like first day of like this new season of my life is just, I'm operating at this new level and I just feel so aligned and fired up and just like all the things are clicking. So I feel like it's a good sign so far. I don't think it's necessarily going to like always be consistent at that level. I feel like it's always just like highs and lows, but I think it's a very good sign. It's like, okay, I'm on the right track. It's going to be really good for me. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, well, I definitely want you to provide updates because I do have a feeling that there are going to be some extreme highs, like things are just like blow out of the water. And you're like, this is amazing, but there probably are going to be some lows, and I think that'll be
Mhm.
really good for our audience to hear some of the challenges and that you're going through and how you're handling that and coping with it.
Yeah, definitely will. I feel like there'll be a weekly update topic of just like, where am I at with the routine? Where's my head at with stuff? Yeah, just a crazy new season and chapter of life. So it'll be fun to navigate.
Well, I'm sure you'll crush it like you do everything, right?
How's the plan?
All right. Well, are you ready to get started? All right. I'm super excited about this because, like we talked about, this isn't something that we typically discuss when we hear the word addiction and obsession, and so I think this will be fun to have a conversation about. So let's talk about. So part one, we want to talk about those sneaky addictions, those positive things that we often speak so highly of, but again, if we go too far, we can kind of create not out of. So the first one is work, that constant grind, the never taking a break. Maybe your identity is tied to productivity. Um,
I
you
feel
know,
attacked.
yeah, I know you're smiling. Like, go tell us your thoughts on this.
I mean, I feel like that's been the constant theme for me the last probably 5 years since starting the business is like I think I took my addictions to like the fitness and stuff, which we'll get into, but then more shifted it towards I need to be grinding 24/7. In order to feel worthy, I need to be productive. I need to be working. Or like even when I started hiring on people to the team, is like, oh, I need to be working more and like grinding more than everyone else to like show that I'm like good enough to lead the company. I don't know, like it's random shit like that. But I feel like I definitely took that way too far, and like I've shared a lot kind of on the podcast and then on social media, just like going through crazy cycles of burnout, just like working myself into the ground, especially when I was starting the business. It was just like 12-hour days, 7 days a week, constantly, never taking any time off. And so it obviously it's for a really great cause. I love what I do. I feel very fulfilled. But again, you can take it way too far to the point where then your health suffers. I went through that cancer scare. I'm dealing with a lot of issues with my hormones because I'm constantly stressed all the time. So it's like you can take it too far and you can go way too much in that direction, even with a good thing like building a business and focusing on work and helping people. So can definitely relate to taking the work one way too far. And it's still something like I talk about, I struggle with a lot and pulling back from that, even in the season where I'm trying to focus more on the relationships and the experiences and stuff. And just even taking time to put into that makes me feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough and are things going to fall apart at work. So it's such a constant battle.
I feel like I've done a pretty good job with the work, work life balance type of thing. I think sometimes I do tend to like want to be everything for everyone whenever they need it. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't feel like I'm as present as I should be in the moment of what I'm doing because I'm worried about, oh, I need to respond to this text or I need to respond to this email or I need to respond to this, whatever it may be. And so I think I need to do a little bit better job of that. And just there are times that I need to, go all in on that stuff. And there are times where I need to fall back and make sure I'm present in the moment of whatever I'm doing at that time or the people that I'm with. I did think about though this experience I had, and I remembered it the whole time. And I don't know, maybe that's helped with this too. But one time in my life, it was a short-lived time. This is one of the few things that I've done, like work-wise, that I didn't really love. I sold advertising for a little while,
Mm.
and I sold it for a radio station, and it was a large company, and they had this. It was this really cool. I think it was like a Christmas party, and a lot of the people there were making like six figures. There's just a lot of money involved, and they kind of had like these like rafters type of thing, and the CEOs and some of the bosses were up there, and they started throwing money like over the edge, and I mean, it was like $5, $10, $20 bills. And I was like, I'm not going to jump up for throwing money at me. I felt it kind of like condescending in a way. There were people making 10 times more than I was, diving on this nasty like dance floor in their suits and dresses for $5, $10, $20 bills. And I was thinking, man, like these people are just so obsessed with the money and the experience of work and doing what they're doing. And so I was just like, this is just not the place that I want to be. I don't want to have that obsession where I'm just grinding everything out just to make as much money as possible. And that's the only thing that's important to me right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good point because I feel like we get so attached and we tie our identity to that thing. It's like, oh, I need the status or I need the followers or the money or the clients or whatever it is. And it's like, that's something I've been reflecting on a lot too, especially in the seasons. Like, all right, like, yes, of course we want all those things. Of course it's important to some extent, but is that really the main focus? I feel like when you focus more on the fulfillment and pouring into yourself or pouring into what really matters, like for me in the relationship experience stuff like that, it's like the other things are going to happen by default. Or even if if you don't hit, like if you aren't making millions and millions of dollars, like you're going to feel ultimately way more happier than as opposed to just chasing the money and the outcome and tying your identity to that.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty common thing, the work aspect of it. I think a lot of people just really get caught up in their own work, whatever it may be the reason why, and just pour like 100%, 110% into that thing. And it just becomes, like I said, it just becomes that addiction, that idol that I need to do better at this and I needed more control in this.
Yeah, and then probably the most common thing that we see with people that come to us is they've done that and then what happens, their health takes the back burner and then their health is falling apart and other areas of their life are falling apart. And so ultimately nothing matters if you don't have your health. And so I feel like that is a very common one too, is like pouring so much into work and making that a top priority and then everything else kind of falls by the wayside.
On a side note too, I was thinking about sometimes it's not even like a selfish thing. Sometimes they're doing it for everyone around them, whether it's for their family or for their team or whatever it may be. And I even had someone tell me, they said, I am awesome at everything that I do for everyone else except for me.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't prioritize himself at all. Every single thing that he did, everything he was motivated to do everything for everyone else but himself. And yeah, his health lagging behind big time. And it was just such a big struggle to get out of that mentality of just don't worry about myself. I need to take care of everyone else around me.
Mm-hmm. So many people get caught up in that, myself included. All like most of our clients, which like it's great. Like it's very admirable that you want to take care of your family, you want to take care of your coworkers, your team, whatever it is. Like it's great, but you can't do that at the expense of your health, as we all know.
Yeah, your health needs to be top priority.
Yeah.
And we've said this too before, but if you can't take care of yourself and people are relying on you, then sooner or later they're not going to be able to rely on you anymore.
Hmm.
Okay, so next thing, let's talk about macros, and this may be something that hits me a little bit harder than the, the work aspect of it. Go so kind of in my journey going back, when I first started in my health journey, it was all about the no fat. It was, and I was like so obsessed with like there could be no fat. I remember even buying the fat free cheese. I don't know even if they have it out there anymore, but like didn't melt. It tasted like crap, and I'm like, dude, no fat. I'm just like added it in there, and I was just so obsessed with as long as it didn't have fat, or I would eat it. But if it had any kind of fat, no. And I would check every single label, every single thing that I ate, and I would pass up on a lot of good food items and opportunities, experiences because I was like, oh man, that's got fat. I'm not gonna eat that. And then it got to where like I had to have protein every 3 hours. And there was this big phase where like if you are not eating protein like every couple hours, your body's just cannibalizing it all, and you're not gonna be able to gain muscle. And so I mean, it was almost like on the dot. Like I would wake up and like, all right, 3 hours from now, I have to have protein. And if I was in a place and time where I did not have like a protein bar or a shake or something that I would start getting anxious, and I would start like, okay, I got to drop everything. I need to find some protein, whatever it may be. And I mean, I'm sure people are like, this guy's a nut job. I mean, but it did. It became an obsession. I just had to do that. And then there have been times where I've been tracking macros where I'm like, oh, well, if it's not going to fit in perfectly with this macro goal that I have, or this amount of protein, this amount of carbs, this amount of fat, then I'm just not going to eat it. Or even if I really want it and it's not going to probably affect me at all, it just becomes that obsession, and it becomes like that idol above everything else around me.
Yeah, I've definitely gone down that rabbit hole too, especially in the early stages of my fitness journey, particularly when I got into nutrition. Is Yeah, I got way too obsessed with macros and tracking every little detail and wanting to have control, and to a point where it's just very unhealthy. Kind of like you, I sacrificed a lot of, like, I never ate out ever. I would not eat anything that I enjoyed. It was just like I need to hit the macros, I need to eat the right foods, and I need to track every little ounce, gram, calorie, everything, like to the detail. Like I was like so obsessed, like could not go over at all. And so it's just a miserable existence. That's not how we're supposed to live. And like I said, I sacrificed a lot of enjoyment, a lot of experiences, building relationships with people, going out, trying new foods, having that type of stuff, just because I was so obsessed with hitting a certain number. And for what? Like what's like, it really doesn't matter that much. Obviously we need some structure, we need some data with that, but like going to that extreme doesn't do any good. It's just unhealthy at that point.
Well, we really want to find that Goldilocks zone, right? Where we feel really good, we look really good, but it's not obsession and we're not going to the extremes. A lot of us want like that perfect body or that six pack, that shredded look and things like that. But to get there, just like you said, not going out, it's almost like you have this fear. Like if I go out, that's going to put me over. And all of a sudden, my rippedness is not going to be here anymore. My shreddedness is not going. My six pack is going to start fading away. Even if it was not going to, like it does. It takes over you. It's kind of like I'm guessing you probably have not seen Lord of the Rings.
No.
Okay, well, this actually, I don't know why I didn't think about this before. Well, there's and if you know the story, but basically there's a character who has this ring that he finds, and it has this like complete hold over him. He has this, and his whole life he's just completely obsessed with having this ring, and it has complete power over him. And so if you've watched a movie with what he's like and what he experienced, I kind of feel like it's kind of like that. It has this like this unreal power over you that it's really hard to just like break loose of it, break free of it, and it in a sense it owns you.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't even go a day without tracking food. I couldn't have a single meal if I didn't know what was in it. And that, like, going to family events, I'd bring my meal prep with me. I'd going to restaurants, I'd bring my meal prep with me. It's like, yeah, like it could not go a single day without tracking, or like a meal without knowing exactly what's in it and logging all of it, which is, it ain't it.
Okay, so the next one is the gym. All right, which you mentioned the gym. I've said this many times. This is my happy place. It is maybe the best atmosphere in the world. You go there, and almost everyone there is wanting to help each other out, and they're to improve themselves. But again, if it becomes an obsession, whether you can't miss a single day for anything, and what we're talking about is like when you start like skipping family events, or you start skipping things that are really important, or going out with your friends, and everything just becomes, I can't do anything else in this world. I can't spend time with my friends. I can't spend time with my family. I can't break loose. I can't do anything different other than getting my scheduled workout time. Then that becomes that obsession, and that becomes that idol.
Yeah, very similar to the macros one. This is definitely, yeah, it's been, it was really bad. When I first got into the gym, I kid you not, I went to the gym every single day for years without taking a single day off. Years straight. Christmas, like I was pissed when the gym was closed and I had to do home workouts. Like yeah, it was just absurd. And kind of like you were saying, like I turned down elaborate vacations that my family were doing because like no, I need to go to the gym. I need to hit my macros. I don't want to like get off track. I would turn down experiences with friends because I need to go to the gym. So yeah, very unhealthy. And obviously like training that much, it just beats your body down, which we'll kind of talk about on the next point too. But yeah, I just got very obsessed with like I need to hit it every single day, and it was more of, again, it was kind of a coping mechanism for where I was at. Like I replaced the alcohol with that. It's like that's how I almost like punished myself to a certain extent. It's like that's how I was getting my worth, and it was just it became very unhealthy.
And if it becomes a place that we can relieve our stress, and we feel at home, and we feel at peace, and like that's our place, and even though it's not reality, we feel like someone's taking it away, or that time is taking it away, then that really messes with our mind. It really messes with our peace almost. And
Hmm.
so that lack of flexibility just makes it so hard. It almost like causes and adds more anxiety and stress to what we're doing, which is counterproductive to what we're trying to do in the gym.
Yeah, for real. Even like on trips, it's like I stress about like, oh, where's the gym? Like, how am I gonna go? Like, how am I gonna get my routine? Or even if I couldn't get the perfect like my normal program and had to adjust, like I was stressing about that. It's like, yeah, like you said, it's like I'm causing so much more stress and anxiety when it should be doing the exact opposite.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so this is related to the gym. So personal records, right? Chasing heavier lifts to the point where it's not even about the health or longevity. It's just all about that ego. What has your experience been there?
Well, also went down that rabbit hole naturally. Especially this is more in the initial stages too. But yeah, in my crazy days when I was doing in the gym every day, doing crazy amounts of volume. Granted, I was also training like 2 times a week, just absurd workouts. Like there for 2 hours, it was just crazy. It was all about like hitting certain numbers, especially when it comes to like squats and deadlifts. I was just so addicted to that, and then ultimately, I ended up hurting myself naturally. Now I have chronic pain because I pushed myself too hard and I'd get injuries and I'd train through it. I remember there was a time I sprained both my wrists and I was still just like training through it, trying to hit numbers, and it just sets you back further in the long run.
For some reason, I never really chased like PRs. Like PRs were never a huge thing for me. I mean, I was always trying to get stronger, but I never had like that goal of I have to get this point or anything like that. But I do see it all the time in the gym, and especially sometimes. I'm a big like risk versus reward type thing, and so sometimes you'll see someone perform a heavy lift, and they're older and they've had a lot of injuries themselves, and it's definitely I tell you, it's not always an ego thing. Sometimes it's just a personal like goal. Like this is my identity. This is really important to me. But it becomes to a point where like is the reward worth it? Is the obsession of getting this PR worth it over the risk that could happen, injury or whatever it may be? And so that can be obsession for sure, especially if people tie that number to, and people ask about that all the time. Oh, how much are you going to get? Have you gotten the 300 to 400, whatever the number may be? And it's almost like it mentally wrecks with you because like, oh yeah, they're talking about it. They've seen me get close. I got to get this now.
Hmm. Yeah. We see this all the time with clients because it is so addictive, and ultimately, like we're aiming for progression. We're aiming for those PRs every week. That's the goal, is the progressive overload. So it's like a great thing, but then it becomes where it's like, oh, like I can add a little bit extra. I just need to hit this number, and then like you said, the form starts to get compromised, or you're just like making too big of a jump too soon and not approaching it safely, just because it feels really good to hit that number and see the progress, which is amazing. But it's like, again, yeah, the risk versus reward. We need to do it safely. We need to make sure that we're approaching that in the right, healthy way, as opposed to just jumping just because we want to see a certain number.
I will tell you the ego thing hits me sometimes, and just like because even though probably no one is watching me, right, and that's typically how it works. You think everyone is, and no one is.
Yeah,
But
right.
if there's a reason why I have lighter weight on the bar, let's say I'm doing like bench press or something like that, and I have like a lighter weight, maybe I'm going heavy or lighter reps that day, or maybe I'm hurt and I just can't lift that much. I feel it sinking in. Like people are looking at me like, "Look, this guy's weak. Like I can't believe that's all he's lifting." And so you really have to sit there in that space and be like, look, there's a reason I'm doing this. Like I have to trust this process. Like don't worry about what everyone else is doing. You know what you're doing. Go for it. Forget your ego. Do your plan. Everyone else has got their own plan, and don't worry about it. But it's very difficult. It's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult because you think that people are watching. And that ego thing's that pride thing. That's an idol right there too.
Mm-hmm. Such a good point. Yeah, like our mind makes up those stories and like all the things that people are saying or thinking when, like you said, is not even true. We're just our mind is making it up. So, got to come back to the reality and kind of zoom out and see the full picture.
Yeah, and the last thing we're going to talk about here, and this kind of relates to the macro conversation we're talking about, because that's the reason you're doing it, is our physique, right? So
Mm-hmm.
fixating on looking a certain way, like no matter what it costs you mentally or physically. The summer when I've just been like super dialed in. I mean, there's been times where like I'm mentally like, exhausted trying, but then there's also a part of me is like, but I want to keep the six pack. Like I want to keep it be as shredded as I can possibly be, and so I'm like constantly weighing that mental physical thing of I really want this look, but there's a lot of things I'm having to sacrifice to get there, and it wears you down for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, like you said, it ties into like for me, like the macros and the training and why I went so hard with those things is because, again, this was all. Keep in mind, as I'm like talking about this, this was like 10 plus years ago when I first got started in the gym and like was going through all these unhealthy habits and like working through all the stuff that I was going through mentally and emotionally. But yeah, like I hated how I looked. I was already very underweight, but I just like I had this idea of like I need to be skinnier, I need to be smaller. And so I would go to those extremes and tracking all the details and training multiple times a day and beating myself into the ground. And then also I would go through those cycles of like, oh, I ate too much, I need to go and like, or I did go binge, and then I'm like, oh, I need to go and restrict. And so it's just like such an unhealthy relationship with food and just like going through the patterns of the eating disorders too, just to because I wanted to look a certain way and I wanted to be skinnier when in reality it just again unhealthy.
It is unhealthy, but again, it ties into our insecurities and a lot of things like that. A lot of the things that we've dealt with in this world, and it's very difficult. If for me to not be pretty locked in all year round, like that, again, that causes a lot of anxiety for me to even think about letting myself go a little bit. Which even letting myself go would be extremely healthy compared to most people still. And so yeah, it's very difficult even now. Even as much as we know and we know better for sure, it's still something that's very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, you constantly got to check yourself on that. It's like one of those things that's always a work in progress and kind of refining and going through those iterations and getting to that right balance. And the balance is going to look different in different seasons of life and as you grow and progress and have different goals.
Right. So again, none of those things that we talked about are bad. All of them with the right mindset are awesome things to go for. Uh, Working hard, the tracking nutrition, hitting the gym, pushing for progress, caring about how you look. They're all part of a really strong, balanced, healthy lifestyle. But like we said, kind of the danger is when it stops serving you and you start serving them. Like it becomes your idol, it becomes your god, right? And so they're no longer the tools for growth. It becomes things that define your worth. And really, it's that, I guess it's that intention behind them, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, it's all that mental shift because I feel like the question you had to ask or the question I've had to ask myself and kind of reframe is, are these things serving me or are they starting to own me? Like if you can't take a rest day without panicking and stressing, or if one untracked meal ruins your entire week and sends you on a spiral, or if you're obsessively checking your reflection, looking at the scale, that's not discipline anymore. That's just dependency.
Yeah, and we've talked about this already a bunch, but when the discipline becomes an idol, I mean, that's where the addiction is gets really bad, right? And idol can be anything that takes that central place in your life, anything that you turn for identity or you turn for comfort or becomes your worth and over God. All that we should be going towards God for, and everything we should be relying on God for. But when other things, like we just talked about, become more important than Him, or our relationships and our family, things like that, the things that and the people that truly matter, that's when it becomes really dangerous. So it's when fitness stops becoming about health and it becomes more about control, or when like work stops being about provision, instead it becomes like your identity. And we mentioned alcohol, but when it stops being like, oh, something fun that I do with social with friends, and it becomes like your escape from reality, that's when we have that's when you need to stop and think about it and give some space to decide whether it's become an idol or not.
Yeah, I think it's a hard wake up call for me. Like I said, I'd replace the one idle alcohol with then food, with then training, with then work, and just like needing to have control over my body and everything. And I feel like it wasn't until I really stepped back and asked, like, why am I doing this? What am I trying to fill? And it's all just that, like, there's always the deeper, like, it's just stuff that I was going through mentally, emotionally with that period in my life and being super depressed and just dealing with trauma and whatever it is. It's like that is the type of stuff that comes up and then can affect and make these things, all these great things, become detrimental to some extent. And so once I started to address those things and really look deeper and reflected on that, that's when I was able to break free.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't know necessarily if any of these are my idols. Like, how do I know that? Well, so we've come up with a few questions too to kind of ask yourself and kind of reflect on. So first thing is, like, can I step away from this without anxiety? Like, if the thought of skipping a workout or not tracking a meal just sends you into a spiral, you get nervous, like you can feel that, then there's definitely a deeper issue there.
Yeah. And because even as I'm going through all of my experiences, like these are obviously like I went to the very extreme ends of all of these things. Like it doesn't always show up in these super crazy ways. Like it could just be those subtle differences. Like you're like, oh, you just get anxiety, like you said, when you aren't able to get in a workout or aren't able to track a meal the way. Like I have these conversations with clients all the time. The ones that are super dialed in and super consistent, and they're getting amazing results. But because I've gone through this and I've seen both ends, and I start to see those little signs when they start saying like, "Oh, like no, I need to hit this like no matter what." I'm like, "Okay, no, 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 hold up. Like it's okay. Like I don't want you to track food. I want you to go have dinner with your wife, or I want you to go on this vacation and not track a single thing or not hit a single workout." And so like that's what I'm constantly checking clients on too, and making sure that we have that right balance and that right sustainability, because it doesn't need to show up in these super extreme ways. But like once you start having these types of patterns and those anxieties, that's where it's like, okay, we need to just zoom out a little bit, check ourselves, and make sure that it hasn't become a little too obsessive.
Yeah, we get so focused and locked in, like you just said. Sometimes we need to zoom out and just kind of take an overview and say, okay, let's look at this stuff. So next thing is, does this bring me closer to or further from the person I want to be? Like, does this bring me closer to or further from my future self, right? That I want to be. So if it's pulling you away from relationships or your mental health, if it's pulling you away from faith, it's no longer serving you.
I love this question. It's so good because it kind of ties into right now, like in the season of my life. It's okay, my priority is relationships and experiences. So is me tracking every little detail and avoiding going to dinners and avoiding going to events and vacations what's important to me? Is that like who I want to be? No, it's the opposite. So it's like right now I'm leaning more into those things and those balance and making sure that I have the right balance there.
Yeah, I really like that perspective of looking at your future self, and whether it be tomorrow's self or 2 months or a year from now, whatever. And say, you know, future self me, are they going to appreciate the decisions I'm making right now and the reasoning behind that? Are they going to look back and say, seriously, I
Hmm.
mean, let's think about what you did for me.
Yeah, so good.
The next one is my identity tied to this? If you don't know who you are without your physique or without your performance or without your productivity at work, like that's a big red flag.
Yep, definitely. That's what I realized as I've been going through this transition with work. It's like, yeah, my identity was tied to I need to grind. I need to be that person that's always working. I need to do that to prove my worth. And once you can release that and see the reality of it, it's like, okay, that's not who I am. That doesn't define me. Then it's very freeing and you're able to like have that right balance. And all of this doesn't mean that you need to stop caring about your goals. It just means that you need to hold them with open hands. You train because you love your body, not because you hate it. You work because it fulfills you, not because it defines you. Or you eat well because it makes you feel good, not because you're terrified of being off plan.
And so we've identified some of these things when we look about, okay, so how do we approach these things in a healthier way, right? So in terms of work, we set boundaries. Take rest days, like schedule those rest days. Take those vacations that you have. Schedule time with a family, or schedule time to have hobbies. Schedule time, obviously with God. Fitness, making lifting and cardio about longevity and strength, something that you can do sustainably forever. Not just about how you look. Think about, how do you feel? How is this going to make me feel from years from now? Can I be there for my kids? Things like that are way more important than, do I have a six pack and how ripped up I am. On the nutrition side, use tracking as a tool that can be extremely helpful, but not a crutch, not an obsession. You want to be able to practice flexibility. And sometimes I almost think it's good to schedule those things in where you over macros on purpose, just to make sure you don't fall into that. I have to hit these every single time, otherwise it's the end of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then alcohol we mentioned too. Again, if it's not something that you can have just because you want to have fun, or you're doing it with your friends and you enjoy some time, it becomes something that, like, you escape reality from. It's time that you step away from that.
Yeah. For me, I think one of the biggest shifts was just going from I have to do this to I choose to do this because it supports my life. And it's all about those mental shifts, the mindset behind everything and the intention behind things, like you were saying. If you're a person of faith, ask yourself, am I turning to this more than I'm turning to God? If the answer is yes, it's maybe time to reevaluate.
Right. And again, not everything that's good for you stays good if you're going to abuse it. Work, macros, training, alcohol, these things can be tools, or they can be chains that hold you down, right? So the difference really is how you use them.
Yeah, and I don't want us to say all this just to like scare people and be like, oh, I should track macros, I shouldn't train them. It's like majority of people, like, yes, you need to be more disciplined, you need to be more consistent. But I think it's just important to highlight, where we can take it too far, because I think a lot of the most successful people, especially when you look at bodybuilders, like you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, but like the lifestyle they live is so unhealthy. Like they are going to extremes. They have a terrible relationship with food, their body's everything. So it can all be taken to that extreme. And I think it's just important to highlight that and kind of show both sides and like what it can be. And then we want to meet in that happy medium, in that middle. And that's ultimately like part of the, like, one of the biggest things that we work on with clients is finding that happy medium, so that way they can be more consistent, they can see the results, but we can also have that sustainability and enjoy it and have the right blend of enjoying life and then making sure that we're also like pretty dialed in, consistent, and seeing the progress that we want. So if this hit home for you, we got homework, and that's just take inventory. What in your life has gone from maybe discipline to addiction, or from structure to a little bit more of obsession? And how can we start to reframe that in a way that actually gives you more freedom and gives that freedom back? Because fitness, nutrition, and your career, these things should enhance your life, but not take it over. So if you're struggling with this and you feel like you've been trapped in extremes, feel free to come join us in our private school community. We actually just hit over 1,000 members, so super fired up about that. Squad is strong in there. It's awesome. And this is just a closer knit community. We're actually, a little sneak peek, we're going to be running a challenge later this month. And ultimately, we're just like helping people rebuild their habits, their mindset in a way that actually works for their life. So that's completely free to join. I'll link that in the show notes. And if you know someone who needs to hear this conversation, send it to them. And we will catch you guys next week.